New Mexico, the fifth largest state in the US, is known for its stunning natural beauty, rich cultural heritage, and iconic architecture, making it an ideal place to call home. Yet, despite its many attractions, the state remains one of the most sparsely populated in the US, with a population density ranking at 46. While Albuquerque and Santa Fe bustle with activity, vast areas of New Mexico's landscape are eerily empty, with tiny towns and villages scattered like oases in the desert. But why? Is it the harsh climate, lack of job opportunities, or something else entirely? In this video, we'll explore the surprising reasons why so few people live in most of New Mexico. Years before, New Mexico used to be more populated than Arizona, the nearest state to it. But now, New Mexico is about 1/3 of Arizona, which is quite surprising. Arizona has similar landmass and landscape as New Mexico, which shows that that's not the reason behind the decline in the population of the latter. The state, also known as the Land of Enchantment, began producing wine about 200 years before any other region in the US got into the production of wine after the monks who smuggled vines out of Spain planted it in the region. This might be surprising because of how underdeveloped it is when compared to some other states in the United States. So, what's behind the decline in population of New Mexico? The first reason is the state of education. New Mexico is educationally underdeveloped. If you have a young family and are looking to ensure your children receive the best education, one of the least likely places for this to happen is in New Mexico. You may be hearing this for the first time. However, many people across America are aware of this fact. The education system in New Mexico is the 51st worst in the United States. It's so bad that only 86.5% of students who enter high school graduate. This in itself is concerning, but it gets even worse. Of those students who make it out of high school, only about 30% go on to earn a degree. This is disappointing, and one might want to blame the residents of this state for not valuing higher education. However, we cannot entirely blame those who do not think getting a degree is important, as the education system in New Mexico is in a poor state. The limited number of universities in the state is evidence of this. There are only 18 universities in New Mexico. While this may seem appropriate given the state's population, the lack of options when choosing a university can deter people from relocating to this part of the US. In contrast, Arizona has 54 universities. One might argue that Arizona has more universities due to its larger population and that New Mexico may not need more universities. But the fact remains that a state with a good number of universities will attract more people. Some will come to attend the university, while others will relocate to work in these institutions, whichever way you look at it. Having more universities can help boost New Mexico's population. And that brings us to the next reason, which is crime. New Mexico is a beautiful state and appears serene, but don't let its tranquility fool you. This state is one of the most unsafe places to live in the United States. In fact, only about 31% of residents in New Mexico feel safe living here. And you can't blame them, as the crime rate here is more than twice the national average. Violent crime is a major factor, and the likelihood of becoming a victim of violent crime if you live in this state is 758 per 100,000 residents, which is 58% higher than the national average. This might not seem like a significant issue until it's compared to a state like New York, which has a violent crime rate of 192 per 100,000 residents. Violent crime is a major issue in New Mexico, but it's not the only type of crime you may encounter. There is also a high chance of encountering property crime, which is even more likely. This indicates that if you are fortunate enough to avoid violent crime, you might not be so lucky with property crime. However, New Mexico still has a high crime rate, but things are changing rapidly. So if crime is one of the reasons you don't want to live in this state, it's a valid reason, but you can reconsider your stance. The high rate of crime in New Mexico can be easily linked to the fact that education is not what it should be. However, beyond the issue with education, substance abuse is a major challenge in this state, and it definitely contributes to the high rate of crime. In the United States, drug abuse is quite synonymous with New Mexico. And while this in itself is a bad habit, it is a major cause of death in this state. The likelihood that someone living in New Mexico will die from drug abuse is higher than in any other state in the US. If these deaths were simply limited to adults, coping with this menace might be easier. Unfortunately, no age group is left out, and the state's proximity to Mexico is not helping either. Drug abuse in New Mexico is not just a problem among adults, teenagers also indulge deeply in it. And out of every high school-aged child in New Mexico, one has a habit of abusing drugs. If you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to tap the bell so you never miss out on our future content. There could be 1,000,001 reasons why residents of New Mexico have something for drug abuse. However, regardless of how you choose to look at it, economic factors play a significant role in the abuse of drugs. New Mexico may not be the poorest state in the United States, but it is one of the poorest. Notably, this state has not become impoverished recently. It has been poor for generations, and residents are likely accustomed to this reality. Although a lot of people in New Mexico are affected by the poverty level, the natives are more affected. You see, New Mexico might be home to some of the best wines in the United States. Sadly, this doesn't mean a lot to its residents, as they do not even have the means to afford the wine they produce. The average poverty rate in the United States is 13.4%, whereas in New Mexico it is 19.1%. This most likely means the poverty level in the US is at the level it is because of New Mexico. The poverty rate in New Mexico is a direct reflection of how bad the economy of this state is. There is a high rate of unemployment in the state. Since there isn't a guaranteed job, it will be difficult for people to move to this part of the country. No one really wants to go to a part of town where they are not sure they will get a job. That's not all. Most folks will only relocate to a place when they get a job there. It's actually difficult for people to simply pack their bags and move to a new state without having a job offer. Well, what this implies is that since there are just a handful of jobs, it will be difficult for the population of this state to increase. As mentioned earlier, New Mexico is one of the largest states in the US with a vast landmass to cover. While this isn't surprising in itself, what is notable is that movement within this sparsely populated state can be a challenge due to the need to travel long distances across arid land to reach one's destination. This may be the norm for New Mexico residents, but it's not a lifestyle that outsiders can easily adapt to. As challenging as movement within New Mexico is, leaving this state is even more challenging. If you are looking to travel outside of the United States and you live in New Mexico, it is impossible to get a direct flight out of the country. Seeing that there is an international airport in the capital of this state might not be so easy to believe. But it is sad how this is the reality for residents of this state. Additionally, since there's just one airport and a couple of airstrips, getting out of the state to other states via the airport can be a huge challenge, as one first has to journey from wherever they are to the airport. If you live in other rural parts of the United States, this might be something you are used to. However, it is most unlikely that anyone in any of the urban areas in the United States will cope with this lifestyle. New Mexico might not be the worst place for folks that take their health seriously, but it's sad how it isn't one of the best either. This state has a healthcare system that is ranked 40th in the United States. Although this position clearly puts it ahead of a couple of states, it might be a far cry from what you're used to. The likelihood of this is even much higher for folks that live in big cities in the United States. Earlier, we spoke about New Mexico being a zone for people that die from drug abuse. Well, beyond several deaths from drug abuse, this state has a record for several suicides. Drug abuse is one reason for these suicides. This is surely not surprising. However, you might be shocked to hear that isolation is also one reason for the high rate of suicides in New Mexico. This might not scare some folks, but the isolated lifestyle in this state might not work well for people in New York, California, and other big and advanced states in America. As much as the health challenge in this state affects everyone, the natives are more affected. The life expectancy in New Mexico is ranked 37th in America. It is 78 years and not even up to the national average. Everyone will die at some point, but moving to a state that could make one live less than they actually should is not something a lot of people will be willing to do. Given these reasons, New Mexico might not seem like the best place to live in America, but it's a beautiful state nonetheless. Even if you have no plans of being a resident, spending a weekend here isn't such a bad idea. There you have it. Those are some of the reasons why so few people live in New Mexico. Have you ever been there? Let us know what your experience was like in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more insightful geography videos. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.